Hey teachers, it's Tim here. Just wanted to let you know that on November 6th, I'm running one of my most popular online workshops. It's called the 6 Cores of Music Teaching and Studio Business Success. This practical workout, complete with a 2-page handout, involves a critical visioning exercise, finding out where you sit on the integrated music teaching matrix, and of course, unpacking where you rank on the 6 cores. Even if you've participated before, you can use this time to reset your vision and find out where you've improved on the 6 core rankings and therefore where to focus your energy for maximum impact in the next 6 months. And if you've heard about our top-level 12-week studio transformation program that we open the doors to twice a year in January and July, then attending this workshop is the first step in getting a place in the next cohort. And because it's so popular, I'll be running the workshop at 2 time zones to suit everybody around the world. Head to topmusic.co/workshop to secure your free place. Can't wait to see you then.
Hey there, I'm Rachel Ehring, and you're listening to the Top Music Piano Podcast. Get inspired as we discuss creative resources, trends in piano pedagogy, ways to grow your income and streamline your studio, and new ways to engage your students each week. If you are a teacher who wants to go beyond the method books to create an innovative studio that fosters lifelong music makers, you've come to the right place. Hello, piano teacher friends. I hope that you are having an amazing week. At the conservatory where I'm the director, we are getting ready for a fall recital this week. So I am in full recital prep mode, which fits in perfectly with what we are talking about today. I tend to keep my recitals pretty simple, but I will admit that I'm always a little bit jealous of teachers who go all out for their recitals. My guest today is Olivia Ellis, and she goes all out for her recitals, but in a little bit of a different way than what I usually think of. She's going to share with us about some of her very creative recital ideas and how she pulled them off without spending a lot of money. I can't wait for you to hear from her. Dr. Olivia Ellis teaches piano, group piano, pedagogy, and chamber music at Messiah University in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania. She's an editor for Piano Magazine and has published several books, including the Easy Piano Lead Sheets and Chord Charts series. She's constantly creating new activities and games to teach concepts and loves helping other teachers find their niche. Here's my chat with Olivia. Hi, Olivia. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here. Can you introduce yourself and tell us what you do?
Sure. Well, hi, Rachel, and thanks so much for inviting me to be on the podcast and talk about all my favorite things. And I'm just honored you asked me to be a part of this. I am one half of the creative piano teacher team, along with Davis Doro. We run the blog creativepianoteacher.com, so we have lots of great teaching tips there and resources for teachers, and we also publish materials and books for students to use. And then I teach at Messiah University in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania. I run the group piano program, and I teach applied piano, chamber music, collaborative piano, and piano ensemble. Lots of things, but all really great things. And then I also keep a small private studio as well.
Wow, nice. So I don't know you very well, so we're going to get to know you today. This is our first time talking. So we are currently doing a creativity in teaching theme over at Top Music. And so I thought you would be perfect since you have the blog with essentially that name. So I want to talk first about some of your creative ideas and resources for piano teachers. And then we're going to spend a little time talking about your creative recitals, which I'm so excited to dive into that today. So tell me a little bit about where your passion for creative teaching came from and how you got to where you are today.
I think the creativity really started with my mom. She wasn't my piano teacher or anything like that, but she was so crafty, and we were always doing projects and making things out of nothing and putting together, if I had a science fair, she would just help me whip up the most fabulous boards. And she really got me excited about just doing things and making them. And even with my last job before I moved to Messiah, it was actually pretty close to her house. She would still help me with some of my recital receptions and always has great ideas. So she's just been a wonderful inspiration for being creative with whatever you're doing. And I had a really great teacher when I was in elementary and middle school too, who also helped me learn a lot of functional skills, not just repertoire, but she would teach me all styles of music and help me learn how to modulate and just play for events. She had me put together a gig notebook. And so anytime there was, so she would put in things like wedding music or dinner music or party music. And so if there was an event that came up in the county, she would say, "Hey, could my student Olivia play for this?" So that was so fun as as a middle school student, you got to go share music with people. And it kind of made me comfortable performing in that kind of setting. And I was also involved in theater a lot when I was in school. I didn't pursue it at all after high school, but I was in a lot of theater shows before I graduated. And I just loved all of the costuming and the sets and the lighting and getting the audience involved. And I think all of those things sort of fed into what I do later, just making my own ideas and kind of reinventing the recital a little bit. And so when I got my first full-time job, I knew I wanted to make a piano ensemble group and do a lot of fun recitals and just get everyone excited about music.
So it sounds like crafty creativity is in your genes.
Maybe a little bit.
A little bit. So how does that look today? We're going to talk about recitals, but where else does that come into your teaching and your studio?
So I love teaching group piano. I've actually had been able to teach group piano since I was in graduate school. And I discovered my love of that setting when I was at UT and OU, University of Tennessee and University of Oklahoma. And I had some wonderful supervisors who helped me kind of develop my teaching strategies for that. But now I just have so much fun in group class, especially that beginning class when students are brand new to the instrument. We just do a lot of fun games and just creative ways to approach learning together, which is really fun to me because a lot of times when we're pianists, we're all by ourselves in a practice room. So to be able to do things together, to do ensembles, to do projects together, to have class together is just something I really love in what I teach.
I love that you're teaching college students, right? But you're still using all of these creative ideas. We often think of them as, oh, these are for the little kids, right? But even the older kids, they love all these ideas, right? I'm sure.
We all do.
Yeah, totally. Can you tell me, you mentioned a couple schools that you were at. Do you have a DMA in piano?
I do. So I went to Carson Newman for my undergrad. It's in Tennessee. And I studied with Ryan Fogg there. And then I went to University of Tennessee and I got my master's in performance. I studied with David Northington, and Faye Adams was my pedagogy teacher. And then I got my DMA in piano performance and ped from University of Oklahoma. Dr. Gates was my teacher and Stephen Buse for a year. But then I had Jane McGraw and Barbara Fast for my ped teachers. And all of my teachers have been wonderful.
Yeah, there's no one better than those women, huh? So maybe you just answered this. I don't know. But I'm curious who has influenced your teaching style and your pedagogy practices?
Everybody.
Yeah.
All of them. I feel like you learn so much from your own teachers and you always take a little part of them with you. So I just feel so lucky. I had such different personalities for all my piano and pedagogy teachers. And then I got so many different ideas that I can kind of assimilate them into my own. But I feel really inspired by my community of teachers around me too. Getting involved in like a local music teacher group and also just your friends who are music teachers and being able to bounce ideas. A lot of times that really inspires me to try something new. I'm thinking of a teacher in Chattanooga who used to share about it's Wanda Everett, and she used to share about her wonderful summer camps, and she does meals with her students and they do crafting projects and they just have such a good time. And it always inspired me to think, I really want to do that. So just finding ideas from other people has been wonderful. I think you really need a great group of people around you.
Totally. And that's why I love doing the podcast, because I get to meet all of you creative teachers and hear all these ideas. And then I can take them all and use them for myself.
Exactly.
So tell me some of the resources that you find yourself using over and over, either in your group classes or with your private students?
Sure. I have too much stuff in my office.
We all do.
And I love to just be able to grab stuff out of a box, but I'll just throw out a few that I really tend to grab more frequently. I love this book by Hal Leonard. It's Scales, Patterns, and Improvs. And it's wonderful because it has the scales that students might be working on, but then it has a little improv accompaniment that you can play it for them to improvise to. And that makes it really easy for you to plug that into a lesson, either with an individual or a class. But I like to use those as a jumping off point for older students to accompany another student or maybe create their own accompaniments. It sort of helps with that improvisation element. I use the last year or two, I've been using Davis, and I have a new book, The Easy Piano Lead Sheets and Chord Charts. And we have a few in that series now because we really love teaching functional skills and just didn't have enough of that at a very beginner level. So in my private lessons with my pre-college students and also my beginner group classes, I've been grabbing that a ton this year. We're using our Christmas book this semester. And part of their project at the end of this semester, we're having a Christmas sing-along. So everyone's going to accompany different chord charts and lead sheets and invite friends to come be the audience or the singers. So that's a couple books. I love to have lots of games. I make some of my own. Sometimes I get them like from Keys to Imagination. I love my Lucy Chu whiteboard. It's a magnetic board and it has little magnets for notes. I keep that by the piano all the time. I have these little animal erasers that I like to use with my young students. They're like the Japanese style erasers, but they come in so many different fun shapes. So like if I'm teaching how to read notes at a piano, and I might talk about the D being like a dog because it's in between the two black keys, like a dog house. Then I'll use a dog animal eraser and they can go find it all over the keyboard, which makes it really fun. And they also like them for prizes too.
Of course.
Yeah. I keep lots of things for sight reading nearby. I like to have lots of anthologies. I like this piano safari sight reading cards, especially just to grab and have on hand. And yeah, you can ask any of my students. I always have very colorful markers, which most of them appreciate. There's one or two who are like, don't mark up my store, please.
Nice. Since we're talking about resources, can you talk about some of the ones that you and Davis have available on the website?
Sure. So we have some print materials that are available. There's links on our website, but you can also get them on Amazon or the Keys to Imagination website. So we have staff paper with a notation guide. We have those easy piano lead sheets and chord charts. We have an Easter, Christmas, and a folk book that have came out recently. We have other resources that are free on our website, like easy downloads for teachers. So if you wanted to go, it's creativepianoteacher.com. There's a pop-up that will come up and it will ask if you want the starter pack, and you can subscribe to our newsletter and get that. And it has lots of free games and fillable certificates for recitals. We have composer infographics on that website. So if you want to teach about Clementi or Clara Schumann, there's a little card you can print out and have available at your piano and share that with students. There's just tons of resources. Definitely get on and check it out. We record on YouTube. We have a channel where we've recorded some educational music. So if you need a good sound model for students, you can find it there. Lots of things.
Great. And we'll put all those links in the show notes so people can check them all out. All right. Before we talk about recitals, you mentioned in an email to me the ghost that plays 5-finger patterns in your class. And I'm so curious what you were talking about.
So I love to teach the warm-ups, like major 5-finger patterns and arpeggios and chords. And then we do minor ones. And I like students to learn those in order so they can play them chromatically. So like C, go directly to C sharp, go directly to D. So once we get to that point, I want to test them and make sure they can jump out and jump back in. So it kind of works out when we go over minor scales. It's close to Halloween. So I'll say, okay, when you hear the ghost, you have to stop playing. So I'll say, ooh. And that means the next scale, they all have to hum it like a ghost. So they'll stop playing and they'll say, ooh, and then they jump back in. And it just really keeps them on their toes.
I love it. So they essentially skip playing one because they're singing it, and then they
They're
come back in on the
singing.
next one. Is that
Yeah,
right? Okay.
exactly.
That's so fun. I love it. Okay. So we're going to talk about your creative recitals because I know this is something that you're so passionate about. And I think teachers they're always looking for ideas for recitals. So why don't you tell us about some of the recitals that you've done with your students?
Well, I love ensemble music. So a lot of recitals are piano ensemble, like duets or quartets or trios. And that's just great because students really get to bond and play together and they become part of a group. But I really love having themed recitals, and we've had a lot. So I'll just share a few of my favorites. One that was really popular was the John Williams themed recital. We had a really big crowd for that one. We've done a Rodgers and Hammerstein dessert theater style recital. So we dressed in really fancy gowns and we set up tables where the audience members sat while they watched the concert. And each table had a different theme. So one was the Cinderella table and one was the South Pacific table. They were all themed around Rodgers and Hammerstein. And then we actually served really fancy cupcakes. And then the students played and shared about each of the pieces. And that was a very special night. We've done a fairy tale concert where students wrote original stories. And then we matched it with piano ensemble music. And then all of the students playing wore costumes, their favorite fairy tale. And we've done several silent film concerts where we take a 1920s silent film and the students, basically I'll break it down into chunks and they take turns accompanying that. So that's something you could do more on your own and less as ensemble, but it's still collaborating and working together. And we always do extra things at recitals. So for that, we've done decorations. We asked the audience members to wear their favorite 1920s attire, which surprisingly, a lot of people did. One time we had a Charlie Chaplin film we did, and we had a student dress up as Charlie Chaplin, and he came out in all the clothes and the hat and wobbled onto stage. And it was like such a surprise in the middle of the concert.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's so
My
fun.
my favorite one that we've done is a murder mystery that I co-wrote with my friend Angela Marshall, and it's called Under Arrest. And I call it a piano play because it's sort of like a musical, but instead of singing a lot, there is a theme song they sing, but instead of singing a lot, they play a lot of piano music. So the story of it is that there are 8 pianists and they show up at a piano duet competition. So throughout the whole show, they're playing all of this music. So you get the aspect of the piano recital, but it's all couched within this story that's going on. And early in the show, in the first half, the judge is murdered. And so the audience members have to figure out who murdered the judge while they're listening to all this great piano music.
Oh my gosh. Okay, Olivia. So you wrote it?
Yes, Angela and I both wrote it.
That's so fun. How did you come up with that idea? Did it just occur to you when you were laying in bed or something?
Sort of. The ideas come at weird times. And I think I mentioned to Angela, what do you think about doing something like this? And she is a great buddy to just go for. She's always down for whatever wild ideas I have. And she also authors books. So that was just a natural. It worked out so well. So we wrote the script for the play and also a theme song that went throughout it. It was called 88 Keys, the theme song. And they would sing 88 keys. Yeah, 88 keys. After the judge is murdered, it turns minor.
Of course.
So, yeah. And we just had a lot of fun coming up with like the characters. There are so many piano jokes in this show. Like the character names are Henley Score and Grace Note. And there's Mr. Albert E. Bass. So everything has kind of a hidden piano meaning.
That's so fun. Oh, man.
Top Music Pro enables you to be a pro in your own studio because you don't have to reinvent the wheel and you don't have to make up all the answers yourself. You have support.
I think of Top Music as the pot of gold at the end of a rainbow. This site is the whole pot of gold, and there's gold pieces in there that I didn't even know existed.
I am actually teaching a full studio. They're coming online from miles away. So I am certainly thriving.
So what Tim has done is build a global community of piano teachers who are interested, who are engaged. And when you become part of this community, you feel empowered.
My life is different now because I'm not just in an isolated little studio. I have learnt that there are other people out there going through very similar learning curves and sharing these ideas.
I've really gained a lot of skill sets where my teaching is far more creative, far more innovative. I have resources so that I can add to it things that I didn't know.
My life and my business are different now because I have the three things that I really wanted: less stress, more money, and more time.
It's going to be fun. Like, I got excited about being a piano teacher. It's revolutionized everything that I do.
I think I've become a more thoughtful teacher, a more organized teacher. The quality of my teaching has deepened.
I feel like I can do this. I feel a sense of hope. I love the creativity it fosters and the openness to thinking outside the box, and it's energizing.
Joining Top Music really solidified that. Like, no, this is your career, and you can make a career out of this. That has really helped me be proud of what I do.
It's made such a tremendous impact on the way I think about teaching. It keeps your mind open when you have so many ideas.
My best win from being on Top Music Pro is just having a lot more peace of mind as a teacher and as a business owner. It just gives me that less amount of hours that I have to do with research and everything.
It's a really good place to spend a few pounds, a few bucks a month. What you get from it far outweighs what you have to pay into it.
My biggest win with Top Music Pro was increased student retention and increased income. I have a lot more confidence in how I'm teaching, and I have the resources that I need when I do have questions.
I probably went from about 35 students to maybe like 65. I ended up doing 3 classes and I had a waiting list.
If I hadn't signed up with Top Music Pro, I probably wouldn't have realized that teaching piano is a real job and you can build your whole career around it.
So I'm sure your students loved it, right?
They did.
So the music, what is it, kind of interchangeable music? Like you could use different pieces within it? Okay, so you just wrote the theme song and then the music within could be different
songs. So when I did it, I had a really good group of students. They were all intermediate and advanced students. And I always make things flexible in my recital. So any of them you could do with younger students or older students. You just kind of insert what music works for what you have as far as the pianist. So for that one, I did use pretty standard repertoire. Like we did the Chopin funeral march after the professor was murdered. And we had can-can music and lots of things. There was a chase scene at the end, which was fairly epic, I must say. But all of that music, if you had just a soloist or you had a more elementary student, you could definitely just plug in whatever pieces you had that kind of fit the theme.
So is this available to other teachers or is it just yours?
Well, we haven't published it yet, but we are talking about doing that and then it will be available on the website.
Okay. Yeah. I think you should.
And if you're interested in it before that, they can always email me.
Okay. Sounds good. So I'm guessing that these recitals have probably become legendary at your school. Can you talk about how your students anticipate the recitals, I guess, and how they are involved in the process?
Sure. Well, this is only my second year at Messiah. Before this, I taught at Bryan College for about 9 years. So we had a good run of a lot of concerts there. I think they probably were a little bit legendary. And so here I'm just getting started, but I think the students are starting to trust, okay, she has a crazy idea, but it will probably work. And they're usually really excited. I'm very proud of them for just jumping in and trying new things. Usually I come up with a theme, but then I'll run it by them. Like, what do you think about this? So like this semester, we're doing children's Christmas stories. And we're narrating like snowmen at Christmas and the Berenstain Bears Christmas tree. We're doing Pete the Cat. So we're doing some well-known Christmas stories and putting music to it. And they're narrating the stories. And we're putting the pictures of the book on PowerPoint on a screen projector. So I kind of got their feedback on all of those stories we were using. And then throughout the process, they always come up with so many ideas too. Every time you do it, even if it's something I've done before, it always turns out different because the group of students is different and they bring their own unique things to the process.
Sure. So is this your group piano classes that you're doing this with?
Some of them are, yes. So a lot of the recitals, the duet ones, come from the piano four hands or piano ensemble classes, but some have been with more pre-college students, and you could definitely adapt these however you need to.
Yeah, I'm just thinking logistically, is it hard logistically to put all the pieces together? I know, especially with ensemble music, that's one of the challenges, I think, is getting all the people in the room at the same time, right?
Yeah, we meet once a week and everybody's in there together. So a lot of times we'll be learning music and I'll kind of float between people as they're practicing. And then we start putting together the concert. But if teachers wanted to do this like on a smaller scale, it really works fine. I've had like once I wanted to do silent film with some high school students and they weren't able to meet together. So we did individual videos for that. So I had them each pick 3 to 5 minutes of a short film, and we worked on it in their lessons, just one-on-one. And then we would practice the music. I helped them record it on a clavinova. Then we kind of spliced it into the movie. Then we invited all of their friends and family to come. We had a popcorn and hot chocolate night, and we had a movie premiere and watched it. So you just kind of tweak it however you have, whatever your situation is.
Yeah. Can you talk to the teacher who maybe does feel overwhelmed by all of this and maybe doesn't have as much of the crafty gene as you have? How can they still have an amazing creative recital without like going overboard, I guess? Or maybe they only have a few students or something.
Definitely. You can adapt any of these to whatever students you have or whatever budget you have. You can do a shorter recital. You can do recorded recitals. Even if you're doing online teaching, several of these could work really well. Once we did sort of a storybook narration, and it was actually during the pandemic. So I just had a few students do this, but they individually recorded, and then we put it together and we shared it with local libraries, and the libraries premiered it on their website. So even if you're online teaching, a lot of these could work well. And I would tell people, especially newer teachers or teachers on a budget, as most of us are, that you don't have to break the bank for a lot of this. I love finding a good deal. So I will just go to a thrift store or the Dollar Tree and kind of think, what can I use for a recital or for a game in class? And I love getting really creative. So, I mean, sometimes I have a thing in mind and I'll go look for something for it, but sometimes I just go get inspired. And like recently I found these cards. They were originally, I think, to teach the alphabet to like a kindergartner student. It's really thick cardboard and they have big pictures of animals on them. And I thought, I'm going to use those piano somehow. So with my really young student, I've been using them to teach like high and low sounds. So we'll match like animals to the high and low parts of the keyboard or soft and loud sounds. We've been using them to find notes. And even with my older students, we've done like some kickoff projects where we improvise and kind of create sounds of an animal based on whatever they pull from their stack. So you can do a lot on a budget. When we've had some of these concerts, I went to thrift stores to find decorations. If students didn't have a costume, I could usually find something for them relatively cheap. It does take a lot of time. So I think if teachers maybe don't have that much time to spend on a big project like this, you just need to scale it down and do a smaller version of it and just whatever fits with your balance, your schedule, and your time.
Yeah. And I found that parents often are willing to help out too, either donating things or helping make desserts or whatever. A lot of times they're excited to get involved. Olivia, can you tell us, how do these recitals engage the audience in a different way than maybe a traditional recital where the students just come up and play and sit down?
You just described it really well. So they don't just come up and play and sit down. We really try to make sure that the content is really engaging for everyone, but that there's also really good flow throughout the concert. So I work a lot with the students on logistics. Okay, if someone's turning pages, if someone has to move off the bench, if someone's reading a narrative, we write it all out and we practice it a lot in advance. And we also hold off the applause usually until the end for some of these recitals because it feels more like a show. So we just try to make things run smoothly. And then we have a big curtain call at the end, which is a lot of fun. But I think the thing that really engages the audience is some of these extras that I've mentioned, like having them dress up in costumes, some of the overtop stuff that maybe if you could think of one thing per recital that would just surprise your audience, especially at the end, it really solidifies it in their mind as a wonderful event. For example, when we did John Williams, I had a student dress up like a shark. So when we played Jaws, they ran through the audience and people still 10 years later will talk about the shark coming through the audience. When we did History of Babar the Elephant by Poulenc, I also had some students dress up like elephants. They came on stage and danced. And then this story talks about the stars coming out at the very end. So I borrowed my grandpa's Christmas light decoration for the front of his house. And I shot the light at the ceiling and had the stars actually come out at the end of the recital.
That's so cool. And how does the audience respond to all of this? Are they surprised?
People were so surprised at a shark running through the audience. You could just hear the murmurs.
Oh my goodness. That's such like an easy little thing. All of those things are pretty simple things, but yeah. But again, you get your audience talking, right? Olivia, tell me what you're excited about coming up for this coming year.
Well, I'm excited for lots of concerts and students giving recitals. I've got a few new things happening. One of my students is working on accompanying ballet music. So we've been practicing making a little cue book for him. We've been practicing excerpts and putting them together in his tablet. And he's actually been able to work with some dancers and try out that. So that's been kind of fun, a really practical project for him. In the spring, I'm planning to use the folk book that I mentioned, our lead sheet book that's centered on folk music, as the structure for a lot of my group teaching. So that book has information about different cultures and it has 60 folk songs in it. So I'm planning to take one different culture each week and kind of explore it with the students. So they'll learn songs from that country and learn a little bit of history. And we're going to have fun activities and just kind of make it a very enjoyable but engaging process.
Nice. And did you say that one is going to be published or is it out already?
So that one, the level 1 of that one is out already. It's the Easy Piano Lead Sheets and Chord Charts World Folk Music Edition, and level 1 is out. That series in level 1, it only has a few of the easier keys and it's all in root position and everything has fingering so that the lead sheets are really easy for students to get into. And then level 2 is coming out soon, and that will have more advanced chords and slash chords, things like that.
Okay. I love that you are creating these products to teach the lead sheets, because I think that that's a piece that a lot of teachers, either they don't feel comfortable themselves with it, and so they don't include it, or they just, that's not how they were taught, so they don't necessarily include it in their lessons. So just give us a brief I don't know, little synopsis of the lead sheet books and how teachers could use those in lessons?
Sure. So a lot of my students were asking to do them because they're using them in school, at church, and they would come say, hey, I want to learn how to play this chord chart. But a lot of times it would have like a suspended chord in it or a ninth chord or something that was a little too tricky for them. So I was always editing these chord charts and making my own. And so that's kind of why we decided to create it, because we just wanted to have an easy collection. Because I think you can use them even with really young students. You can edit some of the accompaniment. You can do open fifths. So it's really accessible. So don't be afraid to use them with even students who are just getting started. When you get the book, it has the chord pictures in the front. So if students haven't learned that chord yet, they can visualize it. And then there are warm-ups in the back and accompaniment patterns that you can use. And we always say if it's someone who's really new to the instrument or doesn't read music very well, you might want to start with the chord chart. But if someone can read the melody, then you could do the lead sheet. And we always like to work on a melody in the right hand and then work on accompaniment patterns in the left hand, but just do it a little bit at a time and break it down. And we give a list in the back of the book of what we suggest would be a great starting place. So if you're like, okay, I have this book, which are the easiest pieces to get rolling with, you can just check in the back and we have some good ideas there. And it's so much fun to just include a little bit of that in your lessons. You don't have to spend a lot of time on it. You can take 3 to 5 minutes. And then the next week, if they've learned the melody, you can add the left hand. And then the next week, you can try a different accompaniment pattern. You can kind of do it over several weeks. And it doesn't take a lot of lesson time, but it's a really great motivator for students. And it's a really practical skill they need to know these days.
It is. I think it's a really important skill that students, like you said, they're asking for it. They want to do it. And they're being asked to play lead sheets in various situations. And so I think it's important for us to train them how to do that. So I love that. Well, Olivia, this has been so fun talking to you today. Thank you for sharing all your creative ideas with us. If teachers want to learn more and connect with you, where can they find you?
You're welcome to email me. My email is ellisolivia@gmail.com. You can also find me on our website, creativepianoteacher.com. We have Instagram and Facebook accounts, and we post there pretty frequently. So if you're interested, you can follow us on those. And then if you sign up on our website, you also get our newsletter, and we send that out once a month. Nobody likes to get junk, so we try to make it really pithy. So we do 3 quick ideas, 1 quick tip, 1 inspirational quote, and 1 question for you to reflect on, and then our favorite resource of the month. So you can kind of keep track of what things we think are exciting.
Great. And you have a lot of free resources on your website as well that I'm sure teachers will want to check out.
Yes, check out the top tabs, and there's one that says freebies, and you can just click that and find lots of things.
Great. Well, thank you, Olivia. It's been so fun chatting and getting to know you a little bit today. I really appreciate you sharing with us.
Thanks so much for having me.
I hope that you enjoyed my talk with Olivia today. This month's theme at Top Music is creativity and teaching, and there are some really exciting things coming up in the Top Music magazine and inside of the Top Music Pro membership. If you haven't been to topmusic.co in a while, head over to the website and check out all the resources available to you. Even if you aren't a member, there are some great free resources that you can check out and download. That's the end of the show for this week. I can't wait to talk to you again next week. I'm Rachel Ehring, and you've been listening to the Top Music Piano Podcast.
How do you keep up to date with all the latest trends and research into music education? How do you connect with other teachers around the world and make sure your teaching stays fresh and relevant for students of all ages and stages, both now and into the future? I created our Top Music Pro membership to be the one-stop shop for music teaching resources, training, support, and community, and I'd love for you to come and join us inside. With over 40 comprehensive training courses, hundreds of teaching demonstrations and lesson plans, free monthly sheet music, discounts, and all the business and pedagogy support you could ever need, Top Music Pro is the community you've been looking for. If you're ready to level up your learning from the podcast and join thousands of other teachers in our global network, head over to topmusicpro.com today.